カブスのカウンセル監督が大谷ルールに疑問を呈したことで、このルールをめぐる議論が再び過熱しています。そんな中、最優秀監督賞を4度受賞し、通算1727勝を誇るバック・ショーウォルター氏が米番組ファウルテリトリーに出演。番組でショーウォルター氏は大谷ルールを公平ではないとして独自の見解を述べました。その模様を日本語字幕付きでご紹介しますので、ぜひ最後までご覧ください。
But how many times at the end of the last few years of your coaching did you have to fight for a guy who just went out there, because it just happened in the Red Sox game? Young man made his big league debut through, I think it was 3 1/3 innings against the Yankees in the Boston Red Sox-Yankees series, and most likely they're going to send him down because he's not available today. How many times did you have to argue about that towards the end of your managing the last few years?
A lot more later on, but you want to lose a bullpen or a clubhouse somewhat. This guy comes in, does the job. The starting pitcher feels awful, and it's just so the last thing you want to do is send someone down because they did their job. I could live with it if there was a set date to come back, so to speak. But it's just not fair, and the clubhouse knows it. So wait a minute, we do our job and this and that, whatever, and we get sent back down. Believe me, pitchers are ready to post up to save this guy from getting sent down. So I understand this is with 11, 12-man pitching staff. Now these guys are I don't know how you have to send guys down with a 13-man pitching staff. Of course, with the Dodgers case, 14 pitchers. Don't get me started on that one.
Well, should we get you started on that one? Because
Yes,
I have a couple
yes.
questions for you, but I'll allow you to
Yes.
kind of respond on that before I ask a question.
Well, I don't think, the bottom line is I used to tell umpires, which would always, I go, wait a minute, what you just did was not fair. What you just did, what the call you just made was not fair. Whether it be, personally vindictive at a player, that's the one that used to drive me crazy, or just being bad. But, I can't understand how it's fair for a team. Yeah, he's an unbelievable player, and you want to do everything possible for us to maybe, obviously, a generational player, maybe go down as one of the greatest players ever. But, if I was the Padres or somebody in that division, especially, and they're able to operate with a little different numbers, I don't get it. You knew this when you signed him. So I'm trying to figure out what is the argument for it that it's okay. What do you guys hear?
I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything that the argument's okay. Dave Roberts is the only one that's like, yeah, it's totally fine. Anybody could have signed him. But in my opinion, like that's his beauty. And not everybody could have signed him. I get that. But I think my question yesterday to Aaron Boone was, because I had made a comment the day before, I think this is how 29 other managers feel. What Craig Counsell said, it's just one of those, Daniel Murphy just said, kind of a nanny poo-poo kind of moment that Dave Roberts was like, well, you don't have him, so wear it.
Well, if you think the Pittsburgh Pirates have the same chance to sign Otani, they can actually give him less money because the money he's going to make off the field in Los Angeles. That's one thing with the basic agreement coming up. We got to figure out some way that everybody has the same shot as some of these international players. And it's not a level playing field. And every organization does not have a chance to sign Otani. They do if you want to way overpay, but I don't think they would ever be able to match what Los Angeles can offer him. And God bless him. The only people, maybe the Angels could have, but unbelievable player. Love to watch him play. Makes the game better. But do we need to tilt the field because they have him? It's kind of already tilted enough as it is.
Bug, give us your thoughts on the Otani rule. Craig Counsell coming out, saying what he had to say about it. Give us your thoughts as an opposing manager of someone that has to potentially play at a disadvantage against the Dodgers.
Well, first of all, you're at a disadvantage when the game starts. They're really good. They take advantage of the rules, and they get good people that post up. They spend their money wisely, and 29 managers probably agree with Counsell. Okay, and I expect Dave Roberts to not be to have the opinion he has. I would too. But if you think it's a level playing field, where the Dodgers concerned, then you know, I got a bridge you can buy, but they don't. It is what it is. Everybody throws stones at people that are successful. You know, I think one of the hardest things to do in sports is to play a good hand well. And Dave Roberts plays a good hand well. And Joe Torre played a good hand well. Now, they'll tell you, you know, some other guys tell you, well, come over here in Pittsburgh and a few other places, Miami, and you know, you might be looked at a little differently. But I just that you can have more pitchers than somebody else on paper doesn't seem fair. You know, I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that. And I don't want to do anything that keeps Otani from showing how great his skills are. But could you imagine back when it was 10 or 11 or 12 pitchers if they were trying to do this?
Yeah. Well, to me, Buck, the argument also of, well, get your own Otani. I mean, there are none. There are no Otanis, and the rule is not going to create it. I think that's pretty clear at this point, don't you?
You know what's funny? I visited Japan a couple of times. We tried to sign Ichiro years ago with the Diamondbacks. Almost got thrown in jail over there because I got him to take a picture with a Diamondback jersey on. Oh my gosh, you'd think I was trying to steal the national treasure, which he was. But you know what hit me with him and Matsui were so much better than everybody else over there. Everybody thought they could get the third or fourth best player and get a really good player. There was such a drop-off between those two guys and the next best player. And now that's not the case. I mean, you see the kid with the White Sox, and you see, you know, I was looking at his stats this morning about what he did in Japan before he came over. And a lot of people try to figure out what Japan level it is compared to this. The pitching's good over there. I mean, I'd feel comfortable having a pitching staff full of Japanese pitchers, but you know, I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic. I don't want to do anything that gets in the way of fans enjoying Otani's unbelievable skills.
So then, in conclusion, if you were in charge, would you have that rule or not?
No,
you would not.
No, there's no way that I'm going to let one team have more pitchers than another one.
What about the in-game rule of losing the DH? Because, right, Kratz didn't bring us all in for a sec. Kratz, didn't Murph just say he would even go way back to, hey, you take out your pitcher, you lose the DH?
Yep, that was his opinion.
Kind of like that rule where you're trying to make starting pitchers hang around more. You want to talk about long relievers, you're going to need long relievers more. I want that guy you can walk in 20 minutes before the game and say, hey, somebody's sick, you're starting in 15 minutes, let me get my spikes and I'll go. But I'm off, you know, I like that rule where if you take your starting pitcher out before X inning that you lose the DH. You like that?
Oh, well, he was talking about Otani, right, Kratz?
He was talking about Otani being able to stay as the DH after he comes out. Murph is saying that he shouldn't be able to stay as the DH. He should have to play a position or they lose the DH.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's years ago I pitched Chris Davis in Fenway Park. We ran out of pitchers 14th, 15th, 16th inning, whatever. But Chris was the DH that day. And I knew the rule that you could take your DH and put him in to pitch. Bobby Valentine's with the Red Sox, and he got all upset about it. And then he ended up putting his DH in the game. I'm not sure if you could do that in today's game. Can I take Otani as a DH and put him in? I always thought they should close him. That way he could impact your game every day. You know, he DHs for 8 innings and comes in and blows them, you know, pitches the 9th inning and finishes the game. I wonder if they've ever thought about that.
Well, Buck, what happens if he's on base in the 8th inning? He doesn't have time to warm up. Then what do you do? Do they make a new rule for that? They get a ghost runner. You get a free pinch runner. He gets more time to warm up.
Wouldn't it be cool, though, he could impact every game as a pitcher and a position player? Every game he could come in. I've always wondered, I'm sure they thought of it, why they've never thought about him closing. You know,
I think it was discussed a little bit during the World Series because he had pitched in game 5 or 6. No, he pitched game 7. There was a time during that World Series where they had discussed what the rules were. If he was DHing, would he be available to come in and pitch? And the answer was yes. But then when he's removed from the game, he couldn't go back into the DH spot. So they would have had to pick their situation very strategically.
He could play right field.
Yeah,
played right field.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could. I think he could, But I think during that time, with him having no experience in the outfield, they, imagine he comes in a World Series game, he blows the save. They have to bring in a new reliever. Now Otani's done for the game, right? So I think that's what makes him so cool is like we sit here and we could kind of speculate about all these different kind of rules and things because he's the only one who can do it. And if there was more players that could do it, teams could use the advantage. And I'm sure there's certain players in organizations, even on big league rosters, that potentially could probably pitch a little bit not to the level of Otani, but I think there's more teams that need to figure out a way to kind of use that rule to their advantage. If you have a guy, a utility guy on your bench who's got a good arm, if you could pitch him every once in a while and deem him as a pitcher, I think there's ways to bend the rule. And I know, Buck, you would definitely find a way to utilize that rule to your team's advantage.
It's funny with Chris that day. You make a good point. If he's on base, how do you warm him up? Well, yeah, Chris, we just sent him down the bullpen. I knew he had pitched at Longview and in junior college a little bit. Looking at his bio, I knew that, and he had a big arm. And I just said hey, Chris, why don't you head down the bullpen? This was at Fenway Park and warm up a little bit. And he kind of looked at me, those eyes got big, because I didn't want him to think about it for a long time. But, we had time for him to go down there and warm up. But you bring up a good point. How do you warm him up if he's on deck? On base.
That's a problem.
Or on deck.
Yeah.
Either one.
You'd run him up to the batting cage probably. That's what we did with Chris a little bit. But,
最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。今回の動画についてどういう感想を持たれましたか？ぜひコメント欄で意見や感想をお聞かせください。チャンネル登録やグッドボタンを押していただけると励みになります。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。